right, everybody. Welcome back to your favorite movie podcast. Featuring the duo that will no doubt host the Oscars one day. I mean, we can't do much worse than James Franco and Anne Hathaway. It's Sports Perspective. This is episode 106, if I'm not mistaken, the Oscar Mania 2018 recap show. I'm your host, Sports Guy 515, and that's right, it's in the title. On this episode, we will be discussing last weekend's Academy Awards, what we thought of the ceremony, what we think of the winners, and all that awesome jazz. And on this episode, following the recap, we will also be finally diving headfirst into these 2018 releases, starting with probably the one that everybody's still talking about right now, Black Panther, followed up with Alex Garland's follow-up to Ex Machina, that is Annihilation. But before we start the festivities, I'm going to introduce my normal Force Perspective co-host, more charismatic than Jimmy Kimmel ever could be, ladies and gentlemen, Adolfo.
Well, I don't know about that, but he did an okay job this time. I thought he was all right.
I think so too. Overall, I mean, he had some good stuff at the ceremony. My thing is, it's starting to get a little played out. With me last year, I felt it was better because it felt fresher. Like now, him doing ceremony 2 years in a row, it didn't have that uniqueness to it. It was more of the same to me.
Yeah, but it's a tough gig though, because I mean, it's kind of a stuffy crowd. It's a stuffy audience. You know, it's a hard thing. I mean, people take themselves super seriously at those award shows. So like, you know, I wouldn't want to do that job. You know, even if I was like the greatest stand-up in the world, I wouldn't want to do that job. Yeah,
that's true. But overall, I mean, we can just dive right into it then. So if you all checked out episode 105 that we did, which was the final Oscar preview we did following my 24-hour Best Picture Showcase marathon in the city that I attended, I talked about how the night of the Oscars, I was actually not going to be watching it live. I actually went down to Alamo Drafthouse to check out a screening of Heathers, which is pretty awesome, by the way. There was one of those, what they call movie parties, where they kind of give you little props to either use during the movie or just little props in general to just kind of keep little keepsakes that relate to the film. So for Heathers, now, Adolfo, have you seen Heathers recently, or is that one that kind of eluded you for a while now?
It has been a long time since I've seen Heathers. I saw it in the 80s. I saw it probably again as a high school kid. And it's probably been since high school since I've actually... Now, I'm sure I've seen bits and pieces of it on TV or here and there, but like sat down and watched it from start to finish, it's probably been like 20 years. I can tell you like the things that immediately pop into mind are teenage suicide, don't do it.
Don't do it.
And we're going to drop an F-bomb early in the show, fuck me gently with a chainsaw. And then, and of course, I love my dead gay son.
Dead gay son, that's right.
I don't remember anything else other than it's already a super dark movie, but I feel like the end, like the climax is super dark. But I can't remember. I know it comes down to like basically Christian Slater and Winona Ryder, like
that's right,
having at it. But I honestly don't remember how it ends.
Well, what's funny about this rewatch, I mean, I haven't watched this movie in years, and I revisited it with the screening, and I was hoping to be able to catch the show, but I don't know if you heard, they postponed the show premiere date because of the Parkland thing. So, which I kind of understand. I think they said it's going to come out in the summer.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So they said, I think now the new premiere date for the Heathers TV show is going to be, I think, in the summertime. I think around June or July, they said. But I get it. And especially looking at the source material, because like I was about to say, revisiting this, especially after Parkland and a lot of all the stuff happening with school shootings in the last few years, this was really, really dark. Like a movie like Heathers really couldn't be made today with all the overly sensitive PC police around and everything. It just feels like that took a lot of risks. That movie took a lot of risks, was really, really dark. And I was almost like living in this culture we're in now, like watching some of that. I was just in shock that they got away with it. But and forgetting that it was the 80s, things were a little more liberal back then as far as like what you could do, what you couldn't do. But just seeing some of the jokes they did, some of the humor, especially with Christian Slater pointing a gun at the two jocks. It's like, holy crap, they got away with a lot of shit. And it was almost fascinating to watch again. And And for those that are still curious, the props I got at the screening were they gave us a bag of barbecue corn nuts, because that's one of the things that Winona Ryder goes in to buy at the little shop near the beginning of the film. And they gave us the red scrunchie that belonged to, I believe, Heather Chandler, who was the one that drank the drain fluid and died. So yeah, so they gave us those little keepsakes. They also were selling a coffee mug that said Big Fun on it, which Big Fun is the name of the group that sings Teenage Suicide Don't Do It. So that was a fun night. You know, it was fun revisiting it with the crowd. It was a quote along screening also, so there were people that were like super fans that were quoting the good lines, like I love my dead gay son and all those classics. But it was a fun time. So you know, I was having a ball at that screening while everybody was watching the Oscars. I revisited the Oscars on the next day, because I took the day off from work to be able to kind of rest up from the marathon and rest up from the screening and just kind of take in the day, watch the Oscars. But Heathers is awesome, people. Like, if you watch it now, like, if for those of you who haven't seen it, like, you're gonna be kind of in for a shock, especially if you're kind of on the young side, age wise, because a lot of the stuff that they do in that movie is really, really out there. But it's definitely worth seeing. Probably one of the better black comedies. You know, in general also, but like also dealing with like the teenagers and high school. It's one of the better black comedies out there.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that I don't necessarily think that it couldn't necessarily be done now. It's more of a question of whether should it be done now. Again, I don't know what the tone of the television show is going to be whenever they make it. I mean, I'm probably not going to watch it because I don't watch TV anyway. But it's given all the stuff that's going on now, it might just seem kind of insensitive to do it, to put something similar to that out now, and I totally understand why they delayed the TV show. And I don't necessarily think that it's more or less that it was more liberal in the 80s, but I think that school shootings and school violence wasn't as prominent, or at least focused on in the media as it is now. So that's why I think it was you could get away with it in the 80s, because it wasn't a thing, right? Whereas it's a thing now, and you know, society changes. Point. You know what I mean? Like you watch, you know, movies from the 30s and 40s, and you see how, let's say, how black people are portrayed, and they're kind of portrayed in like, it's kind of like these goofy, silly kind of people that don't really know anything, and that may have been appropriate for the time, or at least not frowned upon at the time. But you look at it with 2018 eyes, and it's like, well, that's not cool, and you know, we've grown past that. So I think that while you should always look at a film within its certain context, you can also appreciate like how society has changed since that context, and why certain things necessarily shouldn't be done in that vein. Now, I could certainly see a movie like Heathers being made on a more serious note, like not like as a black comedy, but as a drama, or you know, like that kind of thing. Like, I think Gus Van Sant did like a school shooting movie. What was it called? Elephant. It was called Elephant. I've never seen it, but it was like a couple of years after Columbine. And basically, it's, you know, a lot of similarities to Columbine. You know, these kids, you know, basically go in and shoot up a school. But that was a much more serious take on the issue. So I don't think it could not be done, but I don't think it could be done with a comedic twist to it. I think people would come down on that pretty hard.
And you do bring up a good point too, because you know, watching like contemporary audiences watching it in the 80s, you know, see, you know, like again, Christian Slater pulling a gun on these two jocks in the middle of the cafeteria, and you laugh at it because, I mean, why would a kid bring a gun to school? You know, like at the time you laugh at it because it's so ridiculous. Right. Now you look at it today and it's like, oh shit, like that could happen, like that could really happen, and that's scary. So the tone kind of changes from, you know, it's supposed to be played for laughs, but in today's culture, it's a little more unsettling. So I definitely see where you're coming from there, but it's still definitely worth checking out for those of you who haven't seen it. It's one of the classic black comedies of the time and of all time, I think, in my opinion. But
yeah, I mean, I guess again, I haven't seen it since high school, so I can't comment on its quality really. Like, obviously you just saw it, so you can. But I just remember thinking when I saw it in the 80s the first time, I think I was way too young to see it. And then when I saw it in the 90s as a high school kid, I just remember thinking, like, this is fucked up. Like, but like, I don't know if I kind of remember liking parts of it and not liking other parts of it. I don't know. I have to watch the movie again. I can't intelligently talk about it.
Right. But again, while I was doing that, you and a lot of other people were gracing the Academy Awards. And, apparently, I don't know, maybe I feel that maybe me watching it would have bumped up the rating a little bit more. Because apparently a lot of people like to talk about how, and we won't say who this is, but it's pretty obvious, how this was the lowest rated Oscars in history and all that bull crap. And I'm just kind of tired of hearing all that nonsense, kind of justifying certain views. I won't say which kind of views, but it's a little much now. But the people who did watch it looks like they had a good time. But just overall, Jimmy Kimmel, the winners, like what did you think of the Oscars this year?
Well, to talk about those ratings real quick. Technically speaking, it was the lowest watched one. Technically speaking, it was. But I mean, that has nothing to do with the host. I know that certain douchebag presidents like to blame the host on that. I think it's more of the fact that, just like this has been a pattern in the last, 5-10 years of the Oscars have been gradually declining in viewership just because, many factors, people have more choices in entertainment, and also award shows are not as popular as they used to be. It's just kind of a, honestly, at this rate, I wonder if you'll even still get televised Academy Awards in like 15, 20 years, just because they are starting to trend downwards. But as far as the ceremony goes, it was fine. It's kind of like we said on the Golden Globe show, like, I guess I'm kind of over award shows. I just kind of want them to just come on out, give the award, and let's move on to the next category, And the only extra stuff that they did that I actually really did enjoy were the movie montages. They did this one that was great. Like the 90 years of movies or whatever like that. Like it was awesome. It's like one of the absolutely beautifully edited, beautiful choices of music, great clips to pick from. Ranged like the whole gamut from like the silent era to like all the way up to Wonder Woman and Black Panther. It was very. As a film nerd, it was actually kind of moving, I liked that before every best actor, actress, supporting actress category, they had like a little montage of like the different ones through history. But then after that, all the other stuff I could have done without. I could have done without going over to the movie theater with all the celebrities. I could have done without like all the musical performances. Although I know people loved the This Is Us performance and the Coco one was pretty good. But like I could have done with all that. Like we don't need it in there. It's not necessary. Again, I'll say it again. I hate to be this guy because I appreciate the technical awards. But they do drag the show down. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Like people, the general viewing audience doesn't really care about sound effects editing. They don't care about short live action films. You know what I mean? Like they just don't. So I think they should take a page out of the page of like the Emmys or the Grammys where they say, oh, by the way, also these people won. But I also see the other side of it. Like, well, this is the only like glamour these people are ever going to get is like this one little moment, like 30 seconds in the spotlight of like thanking their families, and I get that, but I'm just saying from a production standpoint, from a television production standpoint, it's just dragged the show down. It's like 3.5 hours, I think it was. It's just too long, And
then you have to figure out ways to kind of pad that and still make it entertaining.
Yeah, like the stupid, like the movie theater thing. Like we didn't need to see that. That was so dumb. Like I'm sorry, it was bad.
Yeah, it wasn't my favorite thing ever that they've done, but. I forgot, I'm just remembering it now. I forgot that they were interrupting one of those advanced screenings of A Wrinkle in Time. And you know what? Those people in there were probably sleeping anyway, so I'm glad Kimmel and company were able to wake them up. More on that next week, by the way, Wrinkle in Time. But perfect cure for insomnia. I kind of echo your statements there a little bit. I kind of had it a little easier because I could kind of fast forward through most of this stuff because I was watching it, on replay. And there was a couple of highlights for me. The first, not talking specifically about the winners yet, just overall with the show. The first was the one thing I did like, the little extra thing they added, and I'm pretty sure you liked the running gag also, was about the jet ski. Like whoever had the shortest speech would get the jet ski, and it was I forgot who it was, but like it was
I think
one
it was
of
the best costume
I forgot who
guy.
it was. Costume designer for Panther, I think. Yeah, he's the one that got the jet ski. But basically, for those who didn't watch it, Kimmel said during his monologue that they want to keep the speeches down to a minimum. So he's having a little contest that whoever has the shortest speech wins a jet ski. And that was a whole. And then the winners that came up would reference that every now and then. So that kind of made it pretty funny. And he followed through, like the guy from Phantom Thread who won for best costume design. He came out with Helen Mirren on his jet ski to close out the show, and that was a pretty wacky visual. So I'll definitely give them credit for that. Like you said, the montages were awesome. I love the military one. I love the ones that they did also, like you said before, each of like the acting awards where they did the montages of the previous winners in their roles, which was pretty awesome. They did the one for the In Memoriam was really nice this year. I loved it.
Actually, I disagree with you. I hated it. I thought it was terrible.
You hated it? Really?
It's fucking horrible. It was so they left out so many people, and once again,
I'm talking just more the presentation, not just
the presentation is bullshit too. Because again, it goes to like they do this. They've been doing this for years now, and it's horrible. Like you compare their Oscars in Memoriam to the Turner Classic Movies in Memoriam. The Turner Classic Movies one. They first of all, it's a little longer by like at least another two or like another minute or two to be able to include more people in it. But also like if they have some like whoever they're talking, whoever they flash up on the screen gets like a little 2-second clip of one of their movies, right? And the Oscars one is just like here's a picture of a guy. And here's a picture of another guy. Here's another picture of a girl. Here's a picture of a woman. Here's a picture of another guy. And it's like, and then a couple of people got clips. Like Jerry Lewis got a clip, and like a couple of other people got a clip. But so to me, that tells me is like the rest of these people aren't important to get a clip, but these couple of people are. It's like fuck you. Everyone should like be on the same playing field. You know what I mean? And you know what? If you want to end it with Jerry Lewis, because he's the most famous name, fine. That's fine. That's totally cool. But everyone should at least get a little bit of a film clip. You know what I mean? Like, and what Turner Classic Movies does with like for people who don't have like a clip, like who are like a costume designer or a cinematographer or something, they will just put up a picture because there's no clip for them. But at least like the majority of everyone else has like, and it's like showing a picture of the person doesn't give any indication of what their legacy was. If you show me like a 3-second clip of that person in a scene, that at least is like, look, it's representing what they did. So that to me, that's why I hate that. Like the In Memoriam has been bullshit for like the last 5-6 years, and not just because of the presentation, but also because they just dropped the ball on leaving so many people out, and they don't. And it's like not that hard. It's really not that hard. Just keep a list throughout the year. As soon as someone dies, just put them on a fucking list,
death list,
and then there you go. You have it ready for next year. I mean, it's not that. Yeah. And also, I'm not going to be a dick here. There were people on that didn't deserve, like public relations people. Fuck that. I'm sorry. You don't deserve to be in the Oscars in Memoriam. I know that sounds cruel and mean, but that could have been given to like people who actually contributed to the actual industry. And public relations, that's just fucking marketing. Fuck that. Like directors, cinematographers, actors, actresses, costume designers, people who actually dedicated their craft to the making of movies. But like publicists, give me a break. No, they don't belong there. Managers, fuck you. No. I'm sorry. I know I'm kind of promo on that because I hate their Memoriam. It's bullshit.
But again,
one more I have to say. While I will give him credit for sticking in Robert Osborne, who was the TCM guy for the host for TCM for a while, and I'll give him credit for that. But I'm not going to give him credit for Chuck Berry. What the fuck did Chuck Berry ever do for the movie industry? I get that Chuck Berry was a phenomenally important name for rock and roll, but not for fucking movies. What the fuck is that? You didn't put Jerry Lewis in like a rock and roll in Memoriam, do you? No, because he doesn't fucking matter there. So Chuck Berry doesn't matter here. Sorry, I'm done.
Well, he probably got put in because, remember, his cousin Marvin Berry helped him discover that sound he was looking for.
Yeah.
So. No, but again, this all comes down to what we were saying earlier, the fact that these Oscar shows are just so bloated that they kind of have to, like, they start losing the people's interest real quick. And then the stuff that really should matter, they kind of have to, like, speed everything along because they were always constantly running behind on schedule. So, just hypothetical, would you be in favor of them getting rid of the technical awards on the ceremonies if it meant a longer in memoriam, like a properly well done one?
Well, I would first trim the fat before I trim the warts. Like I would trim like things like the comedy bits and going to different like the movie theater or whatever. I'd trim the monologue. Like honestly, who cares about the monologue? I'm sorry, no one cares. No one really cares about the monologue. What is it there for? You know, like just get to the fucking show already.
To piss off the president, that's why.
Yeah, no, I get it. Like I get that you want to make jokes and everything. Like I understand that it's a ceremony, but you know what? I've been to ceremonies, not for Oscars, obviously, but like I'm sure you've been to like banquets or presentations or awards or something where you're just like, just get on with it. Like, I don't fucking need to hear 10 minutes of speech. Just fucking go. Like, I would trim that, first of all. I would trim any little comedy bits throughout this is my ranking of things to trim. First, opening monologue. Second, any extraneous comedy bits. Third, musical performances, and then fourth, last would be any technical awards. That would be the last one. Everything, all that other stuff, prioritized to go because like you don't need it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you mostly on that. I mean, I would keep the monologue if they kept it to maybe like no more than 5 minutes. Just throw in a couple jokes out there about the Best Picture nominees or about the other acting nominees, and then just move on with the show instead of going into all this extra stuff that really doesn't matter. You know, just keep it, a few gags about who's the people who are there or about the industry, and then move it along. But everything else, I definitely agree with you in that order. That's how it should be.
And I would keep stuff like the montages because the reason I like those is because it's like a celebration of movies, which is what the Oscars should be about. The Oscars shouldn't be about like stupid monologues and stupid bullshit jokes. It should be about a celebration of movies, and that's why I'm okay with those montages being in there, and that's why I'm okay with the in memoriam when it's done well being in there because those are celebrations. Those are honoring like movies. Like, I'm sorry, who cares about the musical performances? Honestly, who cares about seeing Armie Hammer throw a hot dog at someone?
That's true. Unless he's in this shorts dancing while throwing it, that'll probably arouse a few people out there. But other than that, we really have no interest. But
now they did do one. Sorry, they did do one montage that was about like. That basically addressed all the changes, like the Time's Up movement and the diversity initiative and all this other stuff. And I kind of like that one, even though it did almost cross that line and maybe even did cross that line into look at how awesome we are, patting ourselves on the back kind of thing. But at the same time, all the people that were featured were women and minorities and people of color, and that are affected with through some of these changes, these positive changes that the industry has made. So I kind of gave him a pass on it. If it was a bunch of white people talking about it, then I'd be like, all right, guys, quit patting yourselves.
That would have been,
but it was fine. I did appreciate Harvey Weinstein got pretty much made fun of all night. That was good. All right. That's for sorry. I'm done now, I think.
No. I mean, that's it. But I agree with you also, like, with the performances. I mean, this is not the Grammys. We don't really need to hear the songs. If people really cared about the songs, especially the people in the building, they would have already listened to them before voting. But I know, it's so funny. I kept thinking about, oh, by the way, poor Gael Garcia Bernal got freaking torched on Twitter by his singing voice. I felt bad for the guy. And I remember watching this performance, and I'm like, is he the one that's really supposed to be singing this? I don't know. But
he does sing it in the movie in the one scene where he revealed, and spoilers for Coco, where it's revealed that he's the one who sang "Remember Me," who wrote "Remember Me," and he reveals like I wrote it for my daughter every time that I went away that we would sing the song and blah blah blah, and then and then that scene shows him and his daughter singing, right? And in the film, he sings that portion of it. Because it's like sung like 3 or 4 different times in that movie, each with a different person, and he sings that portion. The problem is,
so what the fuck happened on Sunday?
Yeah, well, the problem is that when he did that in a studio where it could be post produced and fixed up. Maybe don't put him out there in front of a live audience. You know what I mean? I think I would have preferred seeing Benjamin Bratt out there in like the full Mexican getup, like his character in the movie,
fucking De La Cruz, bro,
doing like the mariachi version of it. That would have been awesome.
De La Cruz, that would have been awesome.
That would have been great. No, but he's not a great singer, and maybe they shouldn't have put him out there. You know what I mean? They should have maybe used a better singer for it.
Yeah, absolutely right. But and then the song from Mudband with Common, doing his usual Common Dr. Seuss like rhyming. They made fun of that on Saturday Night Live last night. That's why I'm bringing that up because they torched them pretty good.
He didn't win an Oscar for this one, but he already has it. He does have an Oscar, and I think that was for Marshall that he was nominated for.
Oh, it was nominated this year. Yes, I think he won for the Selma song.
For Selma, yeah.
And then I remember I was watching the song from The Greatest Showman, and I remember that performance was so good, and like good. Everybody was clapping for it. Some people were standing and clapping for it, and I remember every time I was watching that as it happened, I kept remembering what we said on the show. Actually, what you said on the show when we did the preview, where you were like, I won't remember me to win, but I bet you that song from The fucking Greatest Showman is gonna win. And I kept remembering that. I was like, with that performance like that, they probably are gonna win. And then I was like, it'll be funny if they don't after the way, that got the biggest ovation of all 5 songs. And then Remember Me won, and it was an awesome moment.
It actually, if you take out all the technical, or sorry, not technical wars, if you take out all the short films, which I didn't watch, I was almost perfect on my Oscar scorecard except for Song. Song was I was so convinced that Greatest Showman was going to win on that. I was pleasantly surprised that Coco won. I was happy Coco won, but it did fuck up my perfect record because I had I called every category, even Shape of Water, for Best Picture, because I actually, up until that week, I was thinking 3 Billboards, but in that weekend, I just kept reading different articles. I'm like, shit, I think it turned. I think the tide turned for Shape of Water. So then, so I switched my vote to Shape of Water. So I got almost perfect, except for Coco. Coco fucked me, but that's all right.
No, that's good. No, but I mean that's a good change though. Yeah. It's a good change from what we were expecting. But I mean, just to go through the winners super quick. Pretty much either Blade Runner 2049 or Dunkirk won all the technical stuff.
Yeah, between them.
Effects, they pretty much sweeped it all.
Yeah, they think they won. So I'm looking at the Wikipedia page. Dunkirk won 3, which was sound effects, and editing. And Blade Runner won 2, which was cinematography and visual effects.
And again, we got to go back to cinematography. Our boy Roger Deakins finally winning the big one.
I know. I'm so happy
a great
for
moment.
That. And I have my problems with Blade Runner. I think it structurally is very flawed. It doesn't really hold up to the original at all. But one thing you can't deny about that film is that it's a fucking gorgeous movie. So
absolutely,
it's well deserved there.
Definitely. Best makeup and hairstyle went to Darkest Hour, like we predicted. Costume design went to Phantom Thread, like we predicted. Production design, The Shape of Water. I was pleasantly surprised by that because I thought Blade Runner would get this one, but Shape of Water got it, and that was a nice surprise for me.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah.
Well, like you said, a song went to Remember Me. Original score went to Shape of Water as well. We can skip all the short films, although I do want to bring up that in this weird world that is the Oscars, just like John Cena, is a John Cena film was nominated for Best Animated Film for an Oscar. Kobe Bryant is now an Oscar winner, so that's very wacky. That's very wacky.
A lot of people commenting on how he's up there, being celebrated in this Time's Up era when he doesn't exactly have the most spotless past, shall we say?
When it comes to women,
and him and Gary Oldman too. But the Gary Oldman one, I'm not sure if that's ever. I know he was accused, but I don't know if anything ever came of it or anything. So that's maybe why he's getting away with it. I don't know. As an actor, I'm glad Gary Oldman did finally get it though, because it was one of those. He's one of those long-suffering people, But right. if he turns out to be another asshole like Kevin Spacey, I'll be really disappointed.
Yeah, well, we're gonna skip the shorts because none of us watched any of them, I think. But I just wanted to bring up the Kobe thing. Best documentary went to Icarus, which we did talk about last episode.
I'm so happy
about that. Yeah,
I was so happy about that.
I'm definitely gonna check that out. Best foreign language went to A Fantastic Woman, which I do plan on checking out because they're having showings at Alamo for that.
I watched it. It's very good. It's very good. It's it's kind of like a slice of life story. It's about basically this trans woman. And she actually presented an award that night. Either presented an award or something. She did something. it's a trans woman who she's in a relationship with a guy. And this isn't a spoiler because it's part of the plot.
The trailer, yeah.
The guy dies, and then it's basically like the next 24, 48 hours in her life as she tries to like deal with the family who's basically like wants nothing to do with this this woman that they kind of see as a freak show, you know what I mean? And they don't want her going to the funeral or like getting any of his like, inheriting any of his possessions, like his apartment or his dog even. And it's just kind of her day in life of her. She very well acted. And I actually did end up squeezing in a couple foreign films and that day. So I was actually able to, this actually did deserve it. So good on them.
I'm definitely going to check that one out soon. I'll have a review up hopefully next couple of weeks. Coco, Best Animated Feature. I mean, who else was going to get it? Obviously. Adapt the screenplay, Call Me By Your Name. I was a little taken aback by this. I was hoping that Disaster Artist or Logan could get this one, but Call Me By Your Name, Best Adapted Screenplay. That was an interesting choice. And then before we get into a little more discussion, original screenplay went to our boy Jordan Peele for Get Out. That was an awesome win for that guy. I was so happy to see that guy up on stage accepting an Oscar. So that was a great moment.
Yeah, I was happy for Jordan Peele. That was really great. As far as Call Me By Your Name goes, once I saw it wasn't winning anything, I kind of thought it was going to win. Because it got shut out except for writing. It's the only one it won. So... And Lady Bird got shut out completely.
Yeah, that was interesting too. I'm looking back on this list now. Yeah, they got nothing. But anyway, so now acting. So supporting actress went to Allison Janney, like we all thought it would. Best supporting actor went to Sam Rockwell, like we all thought it would. Frances McDormand won Best Actress. I was holding out hope for Sally Hawkins still at the end, but Frances McDormand got it. I'm not gonna complain about that. She definitely deserved it. But again, rewatching The Shape of Water, I really felt like Sally Hawkins was gonna pull an upset, but alas, it did not happen. And then, like we said before, Gary Oldman for Best Actor.
There have been a couple of episodes where I've been outspoken as to my criticism of Three Billboards, but of the two awards that did win, Best Actress and Best Supporting Actor, I'm okay with it because those were well deserved.
Right, and it's Sammy Rockwell, bro. I was like him, Guillermo, which we're gonna get to in a second, and Jordan were the three guys I was really happy for on that night because these guys busted their ass for years, and they're finally getting recognition. Gary Oldman too as well, but his is kind of tainted, like we talked about for obvious reasons. But those three other guys, man, I was so happy for them, like really. Also,
it's super weird how he's like in every both this speech and the Golden Globe speech, like he's just super. Very what's the word I'm looking at? Like almost idolizing Churchill when historically Churchill not a great guy,
kind of a dick,
you're right, kind of a horrible person, but whatever.
But seeing guys like Peele there, Sammy Rockwell, Guillermo, they give people like me hope. Like if they could, if they can rise to the top, they can get recognition, then so can I. Because those guys just come off so relatable, so personable that like they give people like me hope that we could be up there one day. So congrats to those three guys. And then again, Guillermo del Toro winning Best Director for The Shape of Water and winning for Best Picture as well. The Shape of Water, the Best Picture of 2017. So that's your Oscars. Those are your winners. And again, like when they first said Shape of Water, I wasn't a little surprised or shocked. I was just like, really? That's interesting. But then I got over super quick because, again, I love The Shape of Water. It was in my top 10 of the year. So if Three Billboards couldn't win, I was glad Shape of Water won. So, again, congrats to Guillermo and all of his success. Big fan of the guy, so I'm really hoping for he continues delivering awesome stuff.
Yeah, it was very not surprising. It was a very I was very happy that it won because, like I said, I was starting to see the tide turn towards it, and I was really happy about that. And it's just fun. It's just fun that basically a genre fantasy monster movie won the best Oscar. I mean, I can't think of the last time that happened, or if it ever happened. I know Silence of the Lambs was a horror movie that won. But a lot of people might some people who don't like horror movies might go, well, it's really a thriller. You know what I mean? So they might not Like, they might not categorize it as one, even though I would. Like, I can't think of one horror movie that has really ever won.
Yeah.
Not that it's a horror movie, but it has a monster in it and has, it's a fantasy element. And I think maybe if you want to go fantasy, last time I think is maybe Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings. I was gonna bring. If you're going to just do strictly fantasy, Lord of the Rings was gonna be my. But that's still like 15 years ago.
Yeah, but like when you're talking about like a supernatural monster movie, though, like I can't think of any time in it. So I'm really happy that is like a big step forward for genre movies, and also the fact that Get Out was nominated as well. Like it just this big step forward for genre movies, and I'm with Guillermo that genre movies are underappreciated or they're not taken seriously, and I think that's a mistake because they do usually have a lot to say about society, and genre movies are often very fondly remembered. You look at that clip that they showed of the 90 years of movies and shit. Like there's so many genre movies in that. Like I'd say probably if you add them all up, I'd say at least 50% of those movies were either sci-fi or fantasy or action or horror. Like, and the rest of them were typical drama movies. But like it's. I'm glad they got the Academy gave it respect, and I don't. It just makes me happy. It just makes me happy.
Yeah, I'm real happy for its success as well. A couple more things to bring up before we move on. Number one, it amused me to read, and I'm sure you probably found out about this before I shared it to you, about Michael Shannon not being at the Oscars and watching it from a bar on mute. Because track down the story, folks, if this is the first time you're hearing about it. So apparently Michael Shannon was not at the Oscars, and he watched the movie he was in when Best Picture from a bar in Chicago with the TV on mute. Like, there's literally a picture of him with a beer or a shot in hand, I forgot what it is, watching the Oscars with the captions on because the TV's on mute because the jukebox is playing, and it's a freaking awesome sight. Like, talk about an alpha, bro. Like, he's already moving on to his. I think he's in Chicago directing the play or something. I read, but that's he was there, and it was just such an awesome picture, But again, like, it just screams alpha to me, and it was very, very. I guess wacky is the best word to describe it. But yeah, and then the second thing I want to bring up is listen. I get it. I mean, the win is still fresh, but I've had to hear one too many the fish fucking movie won jokes, and it's getting a little played out.
Well, it's played out because, like, the woman has relations with the creature from the Black Lagoon. I know on the surface it's silly, but if that's all you got out of that movie, I'm sorry,
exactly.
You're stupid. Like that whole movie is about outcasts and how being different shouldn't be shameful, and you can find beauty in the bizarre and the weird. But if you think that it's the fish fucking movie, I'm sorry, you're stupid. Like you don't get to. You know what? You're not allowed to watch movies. Like just get away from me. You're not allowed to watch movies. Go stick to Transformers or something. Like you're not allowed to go see movies. Like it's been taken away. That right has been taken away.
Yeah, that was the thing I wanted to bring up. Like, I've been hearing those jokes all week, and then, like you said, if that's all you got from it, then you don't really understand.
It's also not funny anymore. Like it's like the first time someone says, it's like, oh, okay, haha. But then it's like, you are not the first person to think of that joke. Shut up already. Like, you are not the first person. And like every time you see it mentioned, it's like there's two things that bother me in life. Well, no, there's actually more than that, but there's two things that come to mind right now that really bother me. Is one, people who think they are smarter than they are, and people who think they're funnier than they are. There's nothing worse than a person who thinks they're funnier than they are, and that anybody who says these fish fucking jokes is a person who thinks they're funnier than they are.
Exactly, and like you said, the first time you hear it, it's funny, but then after you hear it 20 more times in a week, we're just like, okay, we get the point. You didn't get the movie. Period. So please stop. Moving on. So that was the Oscars.
Okay, well, real quick, I do want to say one thing about that montage again because I've watched it like 6 or 7 times. It's really good. They filled it with different quotes and stuff from the movies, and there's this one quote they have from Shawshank where Morgan Freeman asks the Tim Robbins character Andy, what are you talking about? He goes, hope. Hope is the best of things, and no good thing ever dies. And as he's saying that quote, you see images of Robin Williams, of James Dean, Anton Yelchin and of River Phoenix. And I thought that was like, oh man, that's some really good editing right there. No good thing ever dies. Just as you put up those 4 people, that made me almost roll a tear. Perfect editing.
Yeah, damn right. And speaking of Anton Yelchin, he's in Thoroughbreds, which came out this weekend.
It's his last film, right?
It's the last film, yes. So that was it was almost like, when you watch Last Jedi and see Carrie Fisher there knowing it's the last film they're ever going to be in. That's how I felt seeing Anton Yelchin come out. I was like, oh God, this is it for him. So let's take in this moment. And I'll talk about that next week. It's a really, really good film. Just slight spoiler on my thoughts on it. Really good film. I'll be posting a review up very shortly, probably after we finish this recording. But yeah, we'll talk about that next week. I think it's definitely should try to check it out before then, Adolfo. It's really worth it. Interesting character.
Right. I don't know if it's playing nearby though. It's I'll look for it.
Right. But moving on though from the Oscars. So now that that's in the books, we can finally move on to 2018 releases. We were going to probably put these on next week's episode, but Adolfo just saw Annihilation. So he wanted to talk about it today. So I said, you know what? Let's throw in Annihilation. Let's throw in Black Panther. We'll save our Marvel Cinematic Universe film for the end. I know Adolfo's itching to talk about Annihilation. So let's talk about Annihilation. So directed by Alex Garland, who's famous right now for directing Ex Machina, which movie we reviewed on this show. We love to death. This is his follow-up to that film, starring Natalie Portman. And tell us a little bit about it, Adolfo.
Okay, so I think it's going to be really hard to talk about this film without spoilers. So can we get into spoilers for this?
Let's put that tag on.
Definitely. All right. I'm going to say it here verbally. I'll also put it in the description of the episode. But spoilers for Annihilation. Spoilers. You can't complain about it from this point forward. All right, anyway. So Annihilation is about Natalie Portman, who's an ex-military, an ex-soldier, basically, and right. She's currently a professor at a college, biologist. Her husband has gone missing, presumably killed in action for about a year after he went on some deep covert operation. She eventually goes back to the site of the covert operation to kind of help find out what exactly went down with his disappearance and all these different others' disappearances. So basically what's been happening is an asteroid or a meteor hit the Earth, 3 or 4 years ago, and hit a lighthouse on the coast. And after it hit the lighthouse, like a weird glowing shimmer, they call it, starts to develop around the lighthouse, and then it slowly, for the next several years, starts expanding. And every time they send someone in to investigate, they either don't come out or they come out damaged. So she goes in with a group of 4 other women, Jennifer Jason Leigh, who is a psychologist, Tessa Thompson, who is a physicist, Gina Rodriguez, who is I think she's a paramedic or she's a medic of some sort.
Paramedic.
And I forget the other actress's name, but I believe she's like a geologist.
Tuva Novotny. She's anthropologist.
Oh, she's an anthropologist.
Tuva Novotny.
Okay, so they're in there, and then they go in to explore what's going on, and then basically as things go, as the film progresses, weird shit just starts to happen. That's the basic plot of the film. This movie is kind of like if 2001: A Space Odyssey, and Ex Machina, and Solaris, all had this weird orgy and created a baby, it would be Annihilation.
As Seth Rogen said in Pineapple Express, so this is the product of baby fucking.
I mean, there's a lot of influences going on this, and also Stalker. Have you ever seen the movie Stalker? It's a lot.
No, I haven't seen it.
It's a lot of that too. Okay. I'm still trying to wrap my head around this movie. I think the first thing I texted you last night after I got out of it at 1 a.m. was I just saw Annihilation, and then I just said bro, because I'm trying to wrap my head around it. Now I'm going to go ahead and say I think I'm completely on board with loving this movie, and I think you predicted that I would.
I don't know if I said to you on the air or if it was off air when we were talking, but I think I told you this film was right up your alley.
It is.
It's a really great film, really great film. But I'll let you go first with that. But
yeah, so I don't even know where to start with this thing because it's so fucking weird. So basically, you know, now that we're in spoilers, Oscar Isaac comes back pretty much right away. Like, that's her husband. He comes back right away, but then he's something weird about him. So then then that kind of is what actually starts the whole plot. Is that she knows that there's something off about him, and then as we later find out, that's not actually her husband. That's somebody else. That's a creature that was. Yeah. All right, so yeah, I don't know how to fucking talk about this movie. All right, because the while they're in there, you know, Tessa Thompson's character starts to say, well, what it's doing is that it's refracting life forms, and it's creating different things based on like our DNA. So Oscar Isaac, being there long enough, eventually kind of became another being that was transmutated from whatever the fuck being was in there already. And you saw that again later whenever Natalie Portman gets to the end of the film, and a being is kind of made from her, you know, and that was fucking creepy as shit. Whenever you saw that like silver thing start to morph into her. So I don't know, dude. I don't know how to talk about this because my mind is so blown by this fucking movie. Like, what did you think? Because I love the film, but I'm trying to I can't put into words how I can talk about it.
So, couple things. I did write a review for this. By the way, I am going to start posting my written reviews on the Facebook page. I really should start doing that more often as I write them, especially since I'm going to be writing them more often and more consistently. So as I put up a new review, I will be putting them up on the Facebook page as well. So I have a review for this. And not to get into, like, I'm not going to read it word for word, but I just want to read the first couple sentences of my final paragraph. And this is what I wrote. I said, you know, having said all of that, I highly recommend Annihilation, but with a caveat. This is a film that will challenge you. This is a film that doesn't have all the answers. Not all loose ends will be tied up by the time the credits start to roll. And in fact, the ending will probably unravel any ends that viewers consider to be tied, and that's okay. So I won't read any more of it, but that's essentially that's my overall thoughts on this movie. This is a film that I went into kind of knowing Alex Garland, knowing Ex Machina, and I was happy with it because, yeah, you don't get that nice, you know, big happy ending with all the loose ends are tied. And that's okay because that's the kind of story that Garland wanted to tell. It's one of those really, really trippy movies that it no doubt deserves a second viewing because I'm sure there's stuff that I missed, you know, throughout the narrative that he's trying to tell that maybe makes things make a little more sense. I mean, yeah, to me, there was a few things that didn't make sense, but I like that, you know, because just the overall environment, the overall atmosphere of the film just kind of lends itself to that. Oh, you know, how did these things get here? We really don't know. They just showed up one day, you know, landed at a lighthouse, and they started like consuming the area around us. So now you have Area X. And by the way, this film also rivals, I think, Blade Runner. This is the closest rival to Blade Runner as far as how gorgeous it looks. I don't know if it's as gorgeous as Blade Runner, but the visual effects here are absolutely stunning. And no matter what review you read, whether it's positive or negative, every single review is going to talk about how amazing, how gorgeous cinematography is and the visual effects are here. Just top-notch work on this film. Just amazing to look at. Very good eye candy for us cinephiles.
It is. It's really excuse me. It's really beautiful, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around what because this is not. It's not like you said. It's not straightforward. It's not like characters have a mission. They go do this mission. They accomplish mission. It's not that at all. I mean, yes, they have a mission. Yes, they go on the mission, and that they try to accomplish the mission. But that's not really what the film's about. The film is a metaphor for something. So the two main theories I'm seeing on the internet are, the one is the obvious one, which is it's a metaphor for cancer. Because cancer is very big in the film. You know, she's a cancer, you know, she like one of the first times we see like, you know, cells in the film, you know, it's Natalie Portman talking about these are cancer cells. This is what they do. It's revealed that Dr. Ventress has cancer. And it just kind of the way they talk about the mutations is that There's this thing, and it's starting to adapt and mute and basically grow like cancer cells would, and start to envelop the surrounding area of the body, which in this case would be the Earth. So that's like the on the nose metaphor. But then I saw another one that's it's about depression. The whole film is about depression, and another one is like, well, it's about the 5 stages of grief, and each one of the women is like a metaphor for one of those stages of grief. Oh, wow. And I'm like, oh my god, I have to watch this movie like 3 more times to like figure out what the hell it's about, because it's not about going to the lighthouse. That is like ancillary. That is like that's like the MacGuffin of the film. It's really trying to say something, and I have to watch it 2 or 3 more times to figure out what the hell it's actually trying to say. Because I think the cancer thing shouldn't be dismissed. I think that is it in some sense, but I don't think it's the only thing. Like, because I think that's too easy, and this is not an easy movie. So for it to be it's a metaphor for cancer, that makes sense, but that's just too easy of a solution. You know, it has to be about something other than that.
I like it when directors seem to have an overarching theme to their films, and kind of you can almost do double features of each of these films and kind of have the same theme spoken to you in a different way. I think I made the example more recently with Damien Chazelle, when you have completely different films like Whiplash and La La Land, both dealing with the theme of success. You know, I always talked about how Whiplash is very more cynical when it comes to success, and La La Land is more of the tribute to the musicals, but it deals with the same thing of success. And I kind of like that. You kind of taken a double feature of those 2 films and explored the same theme in a different way. I think with Garland here, you can do Ex Machina and Annihilation. You know, with Ex Machina, you're looking at, you know, essentially, you know, the threat of, not the threat of, but like almost the threat of the extinction of humanity with these, you know, with these cyborgs, with these robots that are, you know, that the dude was creating. And Annihilation, you kind of question just the essence of humanity again, and whether or not maybe, humanity has its flaws, but does that mean that humanity should continue to exist, or should something like the Shimmer or whoever these alien beings are, you know, come in and kind of wipe the slate clean? You know, because there's a scene, I believe, where I think it's a scene with Natalie Portman and Oscar Isaac, where they're talking. This is during the flashbacks, and she's talking about how like the reasons that people grow old is because of a defect in our genes. You know, so something like that, where humans already, I mean, it's kind of already hitting you on the nose. Humans already have that inherent flaw in their genes that, they're going to grow old and they're going to die. Looking at that more abstractly, you can say, oh, you know, humanity itself has a flaw. We can look at the many different ways that manifests itself. And the question kind of remains, do you want should humanity continue like this, or should humanity evolve into either better beings or to completely different beings and make way for like these aliens to kind of wipe the slate clean? So you come out of the theater thinking about that, and these are awesome conversation pieces to have with people, like over a drink after the movie. And it's like, holy crap, this film like is really deep, and there's no correct answer to it, but it's just the way that it's able to stimulate your mind, and you start thinking of all these wacky theories. Like, I love movies like this. I love it.
Yeah. And, you know, you bring up a good point with Ex Machina, because that whole movie is about, and I forget the name of the cyborg or the character in the film that Alicia Vikander plays. Is it? It's not Eve, is it? It seems too easy.
I forget her name too. I haven't watched it in like a year.
I'm just going to look it up real quick because I need to know. Cause, it is... What is her name? Ava. It's Ava.
Ava.
That was close. So it's about like, you know, the whole plot of it is, you know, is Donald Gleason going to find out, like, is going to like basically give her... test her to see does she pass the human test? Can she pass off as human? Which then brings up the whole thing is like, well, what makes one person human, and what defines humanity? And then at the end, you know, we find out, does humanity, spoiler sort of for Ex Machina, does humanity mean like your sense of survival instinct, which she, you know, clearly demonstrates at the end of that film, or does it mean compassion, which she doesn't demonstrate at the end of the film? But so like this kind of mirrors that you're right, because there is questions of like, what is humanity in this? Because at the end of the film, we have Oscar Isaac, who is not the original Oscar Isaac. He's he's the Kane. His name's Kane. He's not the original Kane. Yeah. He's like the doppelganger that was made from the alien stuff that is meant that kind of more mutated into what Oscar Isaac looks like. And then you have Natalie Portman's character, Lena, who isn't altogether human either anymore. Like, she's still her original self, but she has spent so much time in there that she's taken on other traits. Like, for example, like did you notice that she got what's her face's tattoo?
Yes, I did notice that.
Yeah,
that was one of the things that I caught.
So and then like so it kind of transferred onto her. So like, and then at the end you see like her eyes are kind of like glistening or like shining and shimmering, I guess you could call it. So like you can tell she's got something else in her too. And I don't know if that like is that a happy ending or is that a terrifying ending? Like I can't decide which it is, because you could look at it optimistically. Like, okay, you have one creature and one human, and they share similar traits, and they're embracing. So is this them trying to like work together towards the future of humanity, or is it like, no, we've not created something new and it's going to kill us all? Like, I can't tell which one it is, because it could be either, you know. And speaking of terrifying, I went into this not realizing this was like kind of a horror movie, because like there's some fucking scary ass shit that goes on in this film that I was not expecting. Like, well, first of all, there's some gory stuff whenever they open up the dude's stomach. I'm like, oh shit, I was not expecting this. But then there's like the fucking alligator, and then the or crocodile, whatever it is, and then that bear thing that has like the woman's voice. Like, what the fuck, man? That scared the shit out of me. That was like legitimately scary. That scene where they're all tied up and like the bear comes in, that's legitimately scary shit. I was not expecting actual horror from this, but I thought it was a sci-fi movie. I didn't realize it was sci-fi and horror. So yeah, this movie...
there were two visuals that are the stuff of nightmares. The first one is when they walk into the mess hall, and after they watch the video of the guy getting his gut opened up, you see they walk into like the pool, I guess, and there's like the guy's skeleton is like plastered on the wall, and like his legs are still hanging off the position, like he was like lying down, like he was doing a bench press, it looked like, and his legs are still there, but like his whole skeleton's like plastered on the wall. That was like freaky. And then number two, near the end when they get to the lighthouse, and Jennifer Jason Leigh has like the light comes out of her mouth and her eyes, like she's like exploding and shit. That was fucking, like, that was in my nightmares that night, bro. So yeah, but it's just awesome visuals, but like really scary stuff.
I don't know. To me, nothing beats that fucking bear, like
the bear thing,
fucking
whatever,
sounding like the one woman scream. That just fucked up, man.
Yeah.
Cass, I think her name was Cass.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that fucked me up. Yeah, man. I need to go see this movie again, or wait for it to come on video or something, because I need to like sit down and like go into this with like different theories and see which one sticks, because this is not. I mean, the reason I say 2001, because it's like it's kind of like 2001 in that it's like when you first watch 2001: A Space Odyssey, you kind of walk out of it going, "What the fuck?" Right? Because your mind's kind of blown. And it also has kind of a similar final ending, right? Because like in 2001, it's him in that fucking white room where all this weird shit's happening, and in this one, it's her in the lighthouse where all this weird shit's happening. So it's like that's kind of like the vibe I got from it. And to this day, I still can't really explain the end of 2001. So I need to like really sit with this film for a while. I heartily recommend it, but I know half of the people that watch it are going to hate it, because when the lights went up in our theater, and I thought there wasn't going to be many people watching it in our theater, because like it had been out for a couple weeks, and I knew that it, word of mouth amongst like, you know, the quote unquote general public wasn't great. But it was still a respectable crowd, and it's like one of those movies that when the lights went out, dead silence in the theater, because I think everyone was like, the fuck did we just watch? You know, so I don't know, man. I love this film, but I don't know why I loved it. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it absolutely does make sense. Like, you're still trying to reconcile. Okay, I know I liked it. It was freaking awesome experience, but like, what exactly did I like about it? What exactly did I just watch? So it's one of those good feelings.
So here's a question for you: the alien things, life forms, whatever you want to call it. Do you feel it is, to use a cancer term? Do you feel it's malignant? Do you feel it's here to take over and, as you said, wipe the slate clean? Or do you think it's just a life form going about its normal survival instincts?
That is an excellent question, because, like we said, the survival thing is more of along the lines of what happened in Ex Machina, and kind of the way, everything played out and everything that we know about this Shimmer, about this alien life form. I think that I'm going with the former, because I kind of alluded to that in my written review, that I think that it could be that this life form wants to just start anew. Like, maybe through some cosmic force, they know about humanity, they know about humanity's flaws, and I don't know if it's a malicious intent to do it, but it feels, you know what, I can do a better job than these humans kid at running the show. So maybe that's their motivation behind it, which is why I think, yeah, it's going to replace humanity at some point with better versions as they feel of themselves. But, I mean, I can definitely see it going either way.
I think I'm on the side of it's not evil. I think I'm on the side of it's just nature. Like, it's just there,
right,
and it's surviving, and it's expanding as like cancer in and of its. If it's a cancer metaphor, cancer isn't evil. Cancer is just something that happens, and
right.
it sucks when it happens to people. But in and of itself, it is not an evil thing. It's just a disease that happens, and I think that's kind of what this is saying. I think that it's just nature. But again, I have to kind of watch it again a couple times. You know what part freaked me out was those fucking plant people. That freaked me out a bit too. Like, it wasn't scary. It's not scary, but it's unnerving. And that's the thing about the film. So, like, it has some scary moments, like the fucking bear and the goddamn crocodile and the what was the thing? The one you said? The guy in the pool with the shit coming out of him. Like,
yeah.
But it's also the whole movie. You're just uneasy the whole time. Like, I don't know if it's the score, because I can't think of the score.
Oh, the score's amazing. That's one thing I mentioned in the review too. The score for this film is freaking awesome.
Yeah,
perfect score.
Yeah, it's either the score or the cinematography. I can't figure out. Again, I have to watch it again. But it's like the whole time you're just like uncomfortable with them there. You're uneasy. You're like, I don't know. So like the whole time you're watching the film, you're just like, something's off, in addition to like all the scary shit that's happening. And those plant people just freaked me out. Like, they didn't do anything, obviously, but they freaked me out because they were just standing there looking like people. It freaked me out, man.
Yeah, the plant things. Yeah, that's where Tessa Thompson met her demise, since we're doing spoilers. And it was in a very very creepy manner.
But did she meet her demise? Again, or did she
become something? Exactly. I mean, as far as the movie goes, like, we don't see her again after that. That's what I mean by demise. But like, did she really die? We don't really know. But again, like I was saying, like, I don't know who the composer is. It's not listed on Wikipedia for whatever reason, but just a perfect score. It really, like, you can hear the probably the best part of it in the trailer. But and that part of the score is actually shows up during the battle that Natalie Portman has with the thing that's trying to copy her. But again, whoever the composer is did a bang up job. Just it perfectly just sets the mood and the tenseness that you get from a lot of these scenes, especially that little final skirmish that happens. So kudos.
Yeah, that final skirmish was upsetting. The music was done by, according to IMDb, Ben Salisbury and Jeff Barrow.
Well, Ben and Jeff, great job. Hopefully, the Academy doesn't forget their work here. But I mean, that's how strongly I feel about it.
So here's another question: why do you think that they made the very specific choice of making it an all-woman team. Now, I think I would like to think there's a creative reason behind it. I don't think it's like Me Too and and let's make it all women and female empowerment, because it was a book first, so it was adapted from a book. Right. So I don't think it has anything. There's no political reasoning behind it.
Well, before we continue, I think in the book it mentions. I only know this from reading the Wikipedia entry on it. Supposedly in the book, they actually specifically say that the reason they're doing all women is because all the previous expeditions were all men and none of them came back. So they want to see if they have better luck with all women.
And they say that in the film too. They do say that in the film. But to me, I feel like there has to be something more than that. Like there has to be a creative reason as to why you choose women for this movie, like for this book and movie. Like I know there's a plot reason, right? I get that. I get we want to try something different and eliminate the variables. I understand that. But why did they start with that as a plot? Like, why did the writer say, make that decision, right?
Right.
Why? Like, I feel like there's a reason for the 5 women I'm not talking from a plot perspective. I'm talking from a creative. Metaphorical perspective. There is a reason he used 5 women, and I can't figure out why.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't answer that question for you either today. It's, I never really thought about it on a creative level. I kind of just took it for what it is. And, I mean, that is an interesting question. Like, I mean, there has to be a reason why they wanted to tell this story. Why not tell the story of the all-male expedition?
Right.
Why focus on the women?
Exactly. Why do it? So, like, I feel like there's more to it other than, like, I wanted to tell an all-female story or the just plain, like, well, we wanted to send women there because the rest of them are men. Like, there has to be more to it than that. I can't believe that's it. I can't believe it's the only reason. Real quick, I want to take, you had mentioned earlier, I'm not sure if you did it on the air or not, about kind of the controversy behind the release of the film and how...
Yes.
So, if I'm understanding right, Paramount released it here and in China, but the studio sold the rights to everywhere else to Netflix. So, like, if you're in France or something, you don't get to see it in the theater. You only get to see it on Netflix.
Which I'm sure you agree with me, especially after we just gushed about, the visuals. That's a fucking crime that the people in Europe and other places won't be able to see this in the theater.
Yeah,
especially that's how it was shot and how it was meant to be seen.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Is like I don't have a problem with watching stuff on Netflix. I watch stuff on Netflix all the time. But if a film if it's initial, like you should always strive to see a film in the way that it was intended to be released and to be seen. And while if you miss its theatrical run, then okay, then you don't get to see it that way. But and then Netflix and stuff is your only choice. But to start it out on Netflix when this movie is such a big screen experience is bullshit. And I think it has to do with the fact that Paramount thinks that it's quote unquote too intellectual, which it is. It's really fucking intellectual and it's really complicated.
But wouldn't that become a bad? Well, I mean, yeah, in the age of Trump, apparently intellect's become a bad thing, a taboo word. And that's really sad, man. Like, yeah. So essentially, Paramount saying that this movie's too smart for people, and how is that an insult? Yeah, it's a smart movie, but when did it become a bad thing, right?
Yeah, and I'm thankful for I'm looking at their Wikipedia page, and apparently Scott Rudin, who's the producer, basically was the interference between Alex Garland and Paramount. Because Paramount was basically like, you got to change it, you got to make it a happier ending, you got to,
AKA you got to dumb it down.
Yeah, and Scott Rudin was like, nope, it's going to be, we're not making any changes, it's going to get released as is. So, good for him. And, it is kind of amazing that a movie like this got released. I mean, even though it is based on on existing IP, it's not exactly IP that everyone knows about. So, it's not like a built-in audience like with Marvel or Transformers or whatever. Like it's IP that not a lot of people probably read outside of like hardcore sci-fi nerds, right? So it's interesting that a studio would even take a chance with something as dense as this. And I could totally see like some fucking like 45-year-old coke snorting, executive being like, "Oh no, we can't release it like this. We got to change this shit." So I can totally understand. I can totally see that. Yeah, I don't know. This is a weird one, and I loved it. I loved every second of it, but I have to watch it like at least 5 more times.
Yeah. Just to kind of put a bow on the situation. So David Ellison, who's the financier of Paramount, like you said, he went up to Garland and Rudin, said that after test screenings, they saw that the film is, quote, too intellectual / too complicated, so they wanted changes to be made for the general release. Scott Rudin said, no, hell no, we're not doing that. And they refused to make any changes or even take any of Ellison's notes. And Rudin had final cut, so you know what? It was well within his right to just say, no, we're not making any of your changes. So because of the clashes between the studio and the producer, a deal was made where in the U.S. and China, it would get its theatrical release, but everywhere else, like Europe, Asia, all those other territories, Africa, it's going straight to Netflix. And that's, again, like I said, because of how visual and how really, yeah, it's still going to be a nice looking film on Netflix, but you need to be able to see that greatness on the big screen the way it was meant to be done. In fact, there's a quote from Garland that, just to sum up, going to Netflix has its plus and minuses, but he says, and I quote, "From my point of view and the collective of people who made it, it was made to be seen on the big screen." And he's right. He shot this film with the intention to show it in theaters. And that's how you really should see it. Like you said earlier, Dolfo, strive to see a film in the way that it was meant to be seen by its auteur, by its director, by its creator. And the fact that a lot of people around the world aren't going to be able to do that is really, it's very sad.
Yeah, and I would urge people to see it in theaters as soon as possible because it is currently, looking at the Box Office Mojo, in its 3rd week of release, right? It's sitting at number 9 in the top 10. So I'd say by next week it's going to drop out of the top 10, which means it's probably going to drop out of a lot of theaters. So, but hey, we got Death Wish.
Which my review of that is up as well, and it's not pretty. So.
No, I refuse to watch it because it's no, man. First of all, you don't remake Death Wish, and second of all, you don't remake it like that. From what I haven't seen the film, but it basically just looks like a random action movie, right? Like it's not even touching on the original themes of the original film, right?
That's what it's trying to. It's trying to be neutral, but it's funny, and I'll get into more of this next week. It's trying to stay neutral in the gun debate, and it fails horribly. Like it offends both sides, and it's pretty hysterical to see it happen. But still, like it's trying to kind of just be a straight action movie, and because it goes into territories that it really should, if it really wants to stay neutral on the fence, it kind of makes it kind of funny, the end product. But I'll get into more of that next week. But yeah, it's one of those movies. So yeah, but definitely. But you were bringing up the box office real quick before we go on to Black Panther. I'm not. I don't want to say I'm surprised, but I'm pretty. It's interesting that like Jumanji, which is in its 12th week of release. It seems not maybe 12, maybe like 12th week of release. It's still playing in my big multiplex. And granted, it has like 2 or 3 showings a day now. But the fact that it's still there, and it's still, I think, in the top 10 or maybe top 15.
It is in the top 10. It's in the top 10 as of this weekend. It's number 10.
It's still there, bro. It came out in December.
And it's 12. It's in its 12th week of release, and it's still the top 10. The movie's got legs.
How about that, bro?
This movie's got legs.
Our fourth rock.
It's worldwide. It's 934 million. Like that movie's got legs.
Yeah, man.
I never would have guessed it. When they said they were remaking...
For a Kevin Hart movie, bro. That's...
well, when they said they were going to reboot Jumanji, I was like, come on. And then, oh, look, it's super successful, so what the fuck do I know? What I want to know is, what in the blue fuck is this hurricane heist movie that I've never heard of, and all of a sudden I see it pop up?
I want to see that so bad now. For those who don't know, because I don't think I've ever mentioned this on the air, I've become a very huge fan Brad Jones, the cinema snob, and he did his midnight screening review of Hurricane Heist, and I stopped it like 5 minutes in because he goes into spoilers on purpose. But the way he kind of prefaces, like, it's some of the wackiest things ever. Like, so basically this film is about like a heist that takes place during a hurricane. That's all you need to know about it.
Well, and apparently, I kind of got that. I got that from the title.
The title, exactly. So in basic terms, yeah, you just look at the title. It's about a bank robbery that takes place during a fucking hurricane, and just that concept by itself. Like, number one, who asked for a movie like that, you know? And number two, what kind of, let's say, extrasensory materials were they on when they came up with that brilliant concept? So the fact that he kind of prefaced it by saying, like, some of the wackiest shit happens here, yes, I'm sure it's still a bad film, but I kind of want to see it now. And with MoviePass, I don't have to pay a dime for it, so it's freaking awesome that we can do that now. So I'm probably going to check that out sometime after work this week, because it just, that kind of already got, he made me want to go see it now, just from on a wackiness level. So I'm definitely going to check out Hurricane Heist this week, hopefully, if it's not too crazy at work. And I will have a review probably by next show. So there's that. But to go back to Jumanji real quick, the reason why I brought it up is because I took my mother this week to see a matinee of Death Wish, and because she wanted to see it because she remembered the old one, so she wanted to see what the new one was like and all that. So because she has memories of watching the original one at a young age with my grandfather, who loved Charles Bronson, all those action stars. So he was a big fan of that movie, and the scene I'm talking about traumatized her as a kid because she probably wasn't supposed to see that in the first place. So, she kind of wanted to see, how they do it here. And thankfully, just quick spoiler, they don't really, that aspect is taken out of this current iteration. But when we were there, I noticed, they're still showing Jumanji. And then I looked up the showtimes. They had still like 3 other showings of Jumanji. Like, they did a matinee and they had like 3 other ones throughout the day. And it's like, holy crap, like, this movie has fucking staying power. And then I looked at the box office numbers. It's still in the top 10. And like, damn, like, The Rock is on fire here. Like, that's freaking awesome.
We'll see how Rampage goes for him, though.
Rampage and Skyscraper, bro. The reason I'm happy for Skyscraper is not because of The Rock. It's because Neve Campbell's getting a payday after like 20 years. So I'm happy to see that when I saw her in the trailer, bro. I was like, holy shit, is that Neve Campbell? That's a blast from the past. But anyway.
Well, I think the only movies I've ever seen Neve Campbell in, she's getting chased by Ghostface. I don't think I've ever seen any other Neve Campbell movies.
There's The Craft, which is
the cult. She's in The Craft. You're right.
I think Alan did a screening for that recently because that's become a cult film. But anyway, not a literal cult film about a literal cult. How about that? So, but yeah, Annihilation, while it's still in theaters, definitely please, if you're into these types of movies that you want to be challenged in, definitely check it out. Especially if you like the Ex Machina. It's right along those lanes. It's along that line of intellect. And give it a shot. It'll make a great conversation piece, in my opinion. So that's Annihilation. So before we get out of here, we're gonna do one more review, and it's probably the one everybody's waiting for on this episode. Black Panther is the giant elephant in the room. I think did it cross $1 billion already worldwide? I think this week.
Yeah, it's in the $1 billion club. It is currently, I believe. Let me look. Give me a second here. The 7th highest grossing film of all time domestically, right behind The Last Jedi, and right ahead of The Dark Knight. It's ahead of The Dark Knight. So Dark Knight is number 8, Last Jedi is number 6. So domestically, it's number 6. Worldwide, I think it's number 21 of all time. Number 21, and it has made $1.078 billion.
Nice. That's super impressive.
And number 20 on that list is Dark Knight Rises with 1084. So it'll beat that by next weekend.
Yeah.
And then Transformers: Age of Extinction is at 1104. It'll beat that. Skyfall is at 1108. It'll beat that. And Lord of the Rings: Return of the King is at 1119. It'll beat that. After that, it might get hairy, but I don't know if it'll crack the top 10. Top 10, number 10 of all time is Frozen with 1,276,000,000. I don't know if it'll get that far because it would still need to make another 100. Let's see, 200 million, I think, to get there. So yeah. That's a tall order, another $200 million. But
where's Force Awakens on that list?
Force Awakens is number 3, at
Ooh.
$2,068,000,000.
Damn.
So it won't get there.
It probably won't get there, but
I don't know if it'll crack top 10, but it'll crack the top 20, probably top 15. Because 15 is Civil War, Captain America: Civil War with 1,153,000,000, and Black Panther's at 1,078,000,000. So I think it can make another 80 million. So yeah. It's only like 5 weeks or so. So, what cracks me up is that this movie in one weekend made more money than the entire run of Justice League.
Yes, I think you pointed that out on Facebook, and that kind of blew my mind a little bit.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Justice League, by the way, it's out on Blu-ray this upcoming Tuesday as of this recording. For those of you who are still interested in that movie. I did pre-order the Steelbook, and it came in yesterday, so I got it a couple days early, so it's sitting on my thing right now. Will I ever open it? Probably not, but, since I collect these Steelbooks and I kind of want to have my DCEU Steelbook line complete because I'm a completionist, kind of like you are. I picked it up, but will I ever open it? I'm not sure about that, but it's there. So.
It just blows my mind as a comic book nerd that Black Panther is a C-level character. I mean, not now. Now he's A-list. But, 20 years ago, if you would have told me, hey, in 20 years, there's going to be a Black Panther movie and there's going to be a Justice League movie. And the Justice League movie is going to far underperform the Black fucking Panther movie. Black Panther was seriously, he was like Guardians of the Galaxy level. Maybe not that bad. He's a step above Guardians of the Galaxy. But and they turned him into a $1 billion franchise. That is insane to me. Not undeserving, by the way, because the film is awesome. But if you really don't understand how not significant Black Panther was. I mean, he was an Avenger. So he was in the Avengers, and he had his own, and he was, he had adventures with the Fantastic Four and stuff like that. So he wasn't an insignificant character, but he wasn't like your Spider-Mans. He wasn't like your X-Men. He wasn't like your Fantastic Fours. He wasn't like your Wolverines. He wasn't like your Captain Americas or even Iron Man. He was down the list, and he has his own movie where he's made over $1 billion. That is mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, it's really amazing. And you know what? But when superhero has a debut solo film like this, that's pretty impressive. I mean Ryan Coogler, who's done Fruitvale Station and Creed, two of my favorite movies. You already have a recipe for success there. And then look at the cast: Michael B. Jordan, Chadwick Boseman, Lupita Nyong'o. I'll just call her Michonne because I'm just gonna call her Michonne from now. That's how I know her. Daniel Kaluuya was here, bro.
Yeah, I didn't realize he was in this movie, and he popped up like, "Hey, look who it is."
Yeah, man. Forrest Whitaker, Angela Bassett, Martin Freeman, and of course the Alpha Andy Serkis get another payday.
The only two white guys in the movie are two Lord of the Rings guys. That cracks me up.
Exactly, and he's not getting any more Snoke paydays, so I'm glad he was able to get another extra payday here. Bro, they haven't seen Last Jedi yet. Anyway, so Black Panther, again, directed by Ryan Coogler. He's also doing Creed 2, is that right? If I'm not mistaken.
Is he? I thought that. Well, let me look.
Well, I don't remember. That's why
they are doing a Creed 2. I don't know if Coogler's doing it though.
With the chorus, and they go with Drago's son versus Creed's son.
No, he's not doing it. He's not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's not doing it. Michael B. Jordan is, and Sylvester Stallone and Tessa Thompson are all back, but Ryan Coogler is not writing or directing this.
Interesting. Hopefully it's. Is it for this year or for next year?
I'll let you know. It's 2018, November 2018. So it's next, this Thanksgiving.
Cool. Remember the wacky rumors about Brock Lesnar being cast as Drago's son? Did you hear about those? I knew they were bullshit from the beginning, but that started making the rounds for a few days.
I never heard that.
Before they shut that down, but you can see it though.
That's probably good. Yeah, I guess I could see it. It's a good thing though, because he'd show up for 3 days and then take the rest of the month off. So
there you go. But anyway,
seriously,
Black Panther.
Brock Lesnar. He's one of the reasons I don't watch anymore.
But anyway, Black Panther. So the timeline of Black Panther takes place almost immediately after Captain America: Civil War. Prince T'Challa, played by our boy Chadwick Boseman, returns to Wakanda to assume its throne after his father was killed by Helmut Zemo during the events of Civil War. Before the ceremony, T'Challa takes his regiment leader Okoye, I think I'm saying her name right, played by Denai Guerrilla, hope I said her name correctly as well, Michonne, on an extraction mission to kind of rescue these kids. I believe they were rescuing kids or women from like the sex slave, like, you know, one of those like Boko Haram type of people. And apparently his ex-girlfriend Nakia, I don't know how you say it, but
I think it's Nakia.
Nakia, played by Lupita Nyong'o, was already on that mission. He kind of reins in on her parade, but he's bringing her back home for the ceremony. And after fighting off a challenge to his throne, I was going to say throne and crown at the same time, but a challenge to his crown, he becomes the king of Wakanda. But then an old nemesis reappears in Ulysses Claw, who's played by Andy Serkis in a very wacky performance. But then again, all Andy Serkis performances are wacky. So T'Challa, donning the Black Panther suit, kind of pursues Claw to South Korea. And that sort of begins his path toward a big revelation that is a big hidden secret in his family, kind of like in a way similar to Thor Ragnarok. It's a secret that will really make T'Challa question everything he believes and everything he's been raised to believe by his father. And that's where I'm going to leave it as far as the plot summary. But we'll get into some spoilers here, so I'm going to put the spoiler tag on this as well. If you haven't seen Black Panther yet, what are you waiting for? Go see it. This film, it took me a while to come to this conclusion, but I think this film, probably ranking my MCU films, probably in my top 5 now, because its greatness to me is very subtle. Like, it's not like that over the top, you know, momentous kind of, I don't know how to explain it, but it's not that type of momentous, you know, where shit is happening everywhere. Kind of like more of like an Avengers movie or a Captain America Civil War type of film where like stuff is being thrown at you constantly by many different characters. This is just about Black Panther. This is just about his kind of universe, quote unquote. And it's a very subtle film in that sense. But the action is really well done. The story is really well done. Michael B. Jordan, I said in my written review, I don't think he's ever played a heel before. So this is kind of refreshing for him to see. And he freaking knocks it out of the ballpark. He is absolutely amazing in this film. Probably outshining Chadwick Boseman, in my opinion, with this performance. So I'm hoping, I mean, again, it's not going to happen. A guy can dream, but hopefully his performance here is not forgotten at the end of the year. But it probably will be, knowing the Academy. But I thought it was just that well done. Like, he played everything so perfectly. Everything, because again, let's get into a little bit of a spoiler. So yes, technically, Michael B. Jordan's character is the rightful heir to the throne of Wakanda, and he was screwed out of it by T'Challa's father.
Well, it's not necessary. He's not necessarily the rightful heir. He is blood, so he has a legitimate claim, but he's not the rightful heir. That's different.
But in the end, it's still screwed out of it. Like
he's screwed out of it. Yes,
in the line of succession. Yes,
he's screwed out of the line of succession. But if he would have still been included in the family, you know, T'Challa technically would still be the next in line by birth, but he has a legitimate claim to the throne, and he's allowed to challenge for it.
He could have challenged it.
He gets blood rights to challenge for it. Yes,
right. And then just so, and then that whole how the story kind of progressed and wasn't very like, oh, you know, he's just going to show up and then he just takes it. You know, it was very well done, like especially the challenge scene where he fights T'Challa. And he beats him, bro. Annihilates him, throws him over the waterfall. And it's like, holy crap, this guy fucking means business. And, you know, seeing the scenes of his family, like crying over T'Challa, I think he's dead. And just all the other tribes just kind of fall in line with Killmonger. And they're like, you know, fuck it, he's the new king of Wakanda. That was so well done, man. I loved every second of that scene, of that sequence. And just everything else about Michael B. Jordan was so great in this film. The action scenes were very well done as well, especially that big final battle they had was really well done. Just, man, this is such a fun movie, you know, and just that funness by itself should be reason enough to go see it. I mean, it is an MCU film, but it speaks to more than that, I think. And yeah, it's I wouldn't call this a watershed moment in films just because, you know, it is a black superhero with an almost all black cast. But it's not hard to see why it's so significant, considering that the previous quote-unquote black superheroes we've seen were very well below like either the recognition bar or just the overall quality of the film bar. I mean, Spawn. I mean, like really, you're gonna hold that up as an example? But so I understand why this movie is significant for people of color, for minorities just in general as well, and. And taking that away, the film was just a great film overall. So definitely check it out if you haven't seen it yet. It's definitely deserves to be up there in the top MCU films, and I look forward to watching this again over the years.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack there. So a couple of things. As far as the quality of the film goes, absolutely, I think one of the top 5 films in the Marvel universe. I think it's up there with the original Iron Man, the first Avengers, the first Guardians, and Winter Soldier. I think it's up in that top 5 because those are my, those are my top Marvel movies. So I think it definitely belongs in there. Michael B. Jordan, hands down, as Eric Killmonger, is the best villain they've ever had. Absolutely, there's no question.
Interesting.
There's no question. He's better than Loki. He's better than the Kingpin on Daredevil, which were the two previous, great villains. And then, honestly, Marvel has had kind of a villain problem in general. Like the best villain they had was Loki for a while. Then Vulture was really good. And
I love Zemo. I love
Zemo was good, but he was kind of a sneakier villain. But I guess you're right. I mean, he's a pretty good villain too. But and I actually really liked Hela from Ragnarok. But everyone else is pretty minor as far as, I mean, they were all pretty easily disposed of almost, whereas Killmonger in the sense of performance and motivation is the best villain that they have. Because I think that's the best performance anyone has ever given as far as a villain goes. Even including Vulture, which I love that Vulture performance. But also, he's right. Like, he's absolutely exactly. Right. Now, he goes about it the wrong way.
And that's the quality, and we said this about wrestling too, like the quality of a heel. What makes a heel effective is the fact that they're right. Yeah, they go around, being, going about it the wrong way, but the makings of a great heel is the fact that they're right in what they say. Or what they do, so
exactly. Because I mean, since we are on spoilers, so he's got a personal vendetta issue with my father was killed and you left me here to fend for myself, and I'm pissed off. So you've got that, but he also had his whole point about you are a nation that is probably the most advanced technological nation in the world, full of black people, and you have seen over the years how we have been treated throughout history, and you have not helped us. That's fucking bullshit. I am pissed off, and you're going to pay for this. That's an amazing it's an amazing motivation, and he's right. He's absolutely right. Wakanda should never have been so isolationist. They during the slave trade, they certainly could have helped out because they did say that the vibranium was discovered hundreds of years ago. So they could have been all this time helping out their fellow man, but they weren't. It's man, I can't explain how much I enjoyed this film. But speaking to like the political nature of it, I think there's a big reason why it's crossed over $1 billion. One, it's Marvel, and Marvel is does make money no matter, even with characters like Ant-Man, it makes money. But also, the fact that you do have a black man as a superhero, and with an all-black supporting cast, with the exception of 2 people, as someone likes to point out, the Tolkien white guys. Except for 2 people, nice. It's an entirely black cast, and both villains and heroes. And that's not okay. Yes, it's not unprecedented. There's been Blade, there's been Spawn, there's been Steel. But the thing that people don't understand is those movies did not have the Marvel hype machine behind them. They did not have the Marvel money put behind them. Blade is a fun movie, but that movie's cheap, right? It was a cheap film to make. It was before the superhero renaissance, and it was not exactly something that was. It was marketed as a horror movie, It wasn't marketed as like anything other than that. So it's not. Well, yes, there have been other Black Marvel characters in their own movies, not to this level, not to this specific overhyped. Black Panther got the same marketing that Iron Man got. He got the same marketing Captain America got. He got the same marketing Spider-Man got. Like, that's never happened before. And that is what people aren't understanding. And especially at a time when we're so politically divided in this country, I'm not going to get into too much politics, but it's good to see a positive example of a hero in that role. It's the same reason Wonder Woman was so successful, right? Like, because, there's an entire movie-going audience that wasn't being served. And now here is a mega, huge blockbuster movie that's going, here's what you want. Here you go. Like, and by the way, as feminist as Wonder Woman was, I think this woman is just as feminist. I think I got to be honest. I love this film, but T'Challa is probably the least interesting character in the whole movie. Like, everyone around them is much more interesting. Like, Killmonger is, but as far as the heroes go, like Okoye, I think it's Okoye. I think it's how you say it. Okoye is more interesting. Naki's more interesting. His sister stole the show. Shuri is the
absolutely, yeah.
What are those? She stole the show. I mean, she's I don't know. They are all positive examples of strong female characters on the same level as Wonder Woman, and they, if it wasn't for them, like, Black Panther would have been dead in this film. So, like, I absolutely love this film. If you are one of those people that like, well, why isn't it White Panther, or there's been other black people, like, shut up,
come on, bro.
Like, just let what. How many, it's like, well, why does a black director have to direct it? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, because what is your problem if a black director does direct it? Like, what do you care? It's like, well, it should be about the quality of the director. It's like, well, that assumes that you don't think a black director could come up with the same kind of quality a white director does, right? It's just fucking bullshit arguments that I hate, and I don't want to ever hear people talk about. Like, 99.9% of the movies out there are made by white people for white people. Like, let this one slide. And it brings me to this quote from the Oscars that we talked about a little while ago, where during one of those montages, Kumail Nanjiani was talking. He's like, my whole life I've been watching movies made by white dudes about white dudes. And how did the rest of the quote go? And he goes, but now people are seeing me in a movie and they have to relate to that. And it's like, and it's not that hard because I've been doing it my whole life. And there you go. You can't say it better than that. Like, you don't have to be of someone's certain skin color to relate to that. So,
right.
I don't know. Those people piss me off. So, anyway, this is a fantastic movie. This is in the top 5, I think, as far as Marvel Cinematic Universe movies go. Like, I don't know what order I put them in, really, but Iron Man 1, Avengers 1, Guardians 1, and what's the other one I'm missing?
Winter Soldier.
Oh, Winter Soldier and this. So, like, those are my top 5. I don't know what order I put them in, but those are my top 5. It easily went in there. So, yeah, this is the heartiest recommendation I can give. This is Marvel at its absolute best.
Yep.
I know they've had some misses, but this is them at their best. Actually, the last several they've done have all been good. Like, Thor was good, Spider-Man was good, Doctor Strange was good. So their lowest point, I think, was probably Dark World.
Yeah, probably. But they sure made up for that with Ragnarok, which I finally my package for Ragnarok. I got the Steelbook for Best Buy. Was delayed for a week because we got a nor'easter here, so the mail wasn't really running on time anymore. But I finally got it yesterday, so I'm definitely gonna plop that in again because I mean we talked about it, I think, on the show already. I love Ragnarok, just the direction they took Thor in, way better than Dark World. So I'm definitely I'm excited for that, to watch that again.
Yeah, and the Ultron wasn't great, but I think everything else has been pretty solid. So.
Yeah, they've had very rare misses. I wouldn't even call like Dark World or Ultron a miss. It's just not up to their normal standards, but they were still decent Marvel films, But a couple other things about Black Panther. The first thing is the pacing was really good. The movie just flowed naturally from one moment to the next, and there was never a dull moment for me. It kept me interested throughout the entire thing. Another thing I noticed was, again, I think we talked about this last episode or the episode before we were doing the Oscar preview. Rachel Morrison was the cinematographer for this movie, who also did Mudbound, was nominated for Mudbound. And the way Wakanda, the landscape of Wakanda is showcased here, just amazing. And we harped about how great the visuals are in Annihilation. This one has just equally great visuals, I think. Just the way they shot the landscape, the way everything just pops on the screen, the different colors used, and just the way that it just meshes all together, and it creates this beautiful African landscape. You know, you could tell a lot of heart went into that. Exactly, exactly. But it had so much heart behind it that it just permeated through the screen for me. And just big ups to Rachel Morrison for a fantastic job on the cinematography. Everything just looked beautiful, especially the shots of Wakanda, the landscape. Everything just looked beautiful. So big ups to her on that as well. And you mentioned the sister, Letitia Wright, I think played T'Challa's sister. Probably Michael B. Jordan is the MVP, but she comes a close second. She stole the show in every scene she was in, and she was just really, really good. I loved her comedic timing, her sense of humor, her line delivery was really good. So she was another one that I really, really enjoyed watching. But again, like you pretty much unpacked it neatly for me. This is an incredible film, great Marvel film. If you're into these types of movies, I highly recommend seeing it. We highly recommend you go and put down some cash and see it while it's still in theaters, and it'll probably be there for a while. Hopefully, as long as Jumanji is still in theaters. But really excellent effort on Marvel's part, excellent effort on everybody involved: Ryan Coogler, the cast, the production team, and it's one of those films that it reminded me, like, just on where it came out in the release calendar and how I feel about it afterwards. It reminded me of Deadpool. Deadpool came out in February as well, a couple years ago, and it's stuck with me all the way to the end of the year. And this is how I feel Black Panther is going to be. To me, this is one of those films that it probably will get all technical nominations for next year's Oscars, but it's going to stick with me as probably one of the best of the year.
Oh, costuming! It has to get a costuming award. Those costumes are amazing. Like it has such a unique look. Those costumes are such a unique look. I think they call it Afrofuturism is the term I heard it called. Like, and it's so they're beautiful costuming. Like if they don't get a costume award next year, I'll be pissed. Or at least a nomination, I'll be pissed because it looks really good. Probably go to some stuffy fucking like period piece, but whatever.
Another movie about Dunkirk, bro. That involves Dunkirk, probably.
Yeah. Anyway, but no, I will say this. I will say one kind of flaw that kind of jumps out. Well, two. One was the how I said that I think T'Challa isn't given enough to do. Like, he's kind of just stuff happens to him and around him, but he's not the one, like,
the focus.
He's not the focus, right? And everyone else he gets outstaged by everyone else. That's my one kind of complaint about it. But the other one is, I thought the final fight sequence, like between the two Panthers, was a really CGI heavy, and like it was like it felt like I was watching like Attack of the Clones, as far as like you could tell everything was fake. You know what I mean? That was that kind of bugged me a bit. That said, I will say that, like, someone pointed out to me, I think I saw it on, not to me, but I saw it on social media. It's like, did anybody else notice that the two Black Panthers at the end are fighting on a literal underground railroad? I'm like, holy shit. Like, I didn't even notice that, but that's exactly what they're doing. And that's not, I guarantee that's not a mistake. And then, like, the other thing I want to point out that I thought, like, so whenever Black Panther goes onto the ancestral plane or whatever the fuck it is,
right?
And he sees his dad and all the other different Black Panthers in history, but when Killmonger goes, he only sees his father. He doesn't see anybody else. What I saw someone else point out that I think is really kind of heartbreaking about that character is, of course, that's the only person he sees. Even though he would have a shared lineage with T'Challa, of course, he only would see his father because that's the only connection to anything he ever knew. And any of his ancestors from his mother's side would have been wiped out during the slave trade. So he has no idea who his ancestors are. So that's why he's by himself. And I'm like, oh my god, that's so fucking deep. I didn't even think about that. That's upsetting when you think about it. And it just it gives him more weight as a villain. And when, again, since we're in spoilers, when he finally dies at the end,
I was about to mention that death scene, bro.
That scene, I was like, holy shit.
It hit me hard, bro. And he's the bad guy.
He was like, holy shit, I just almost rolled a tear at that scene, and he's the fucking villain. Like he's like
him getting to see that Wakandan sunset like for the first time, like for real, as he dies, it was like holy shit, man! Like here come the waterworks. Like I felt bad. Like it was.
And he's like bury me like in the water, like all my ancestors who, you know, who were during the slave trade. And he said it more eloquently than that. But Jesus Christ, that was good stuff. It was really good stuff, man.
Yeah.
And then, by the way. So we get 2 post-credit sequences. Oh, first of all, we didn't talk about M'Baku, who's like
M'Baku, bro, our boy Sterling K. Brown.
He was awesome in that movie, man.
I'm not. I mean, Winston Duke. That's not Sterling. Winston Duke was M'Baku. Yeah, M'Baku was awesome.
Oof. Oh, the barking for no reason. That cracked me up. He was awesome. But so we get 2 post-credit sequences. One is more Marvel related. That's like, oh, here's the Winter Soldier. Blah blah blah. Here we go. But the other one.
This one was dissected a little too much by people.
I don't think I dissected it at all. I don't think it needs to be dissected. I think it's pretty obvious. Like you can't in our current climate, right? If you have a character saying people who build walls are fools, but people who build bridges are wise, or however that quote goes, that's a shot. Yeah. That's a shot at Pete. That's a shot at Trump. I don't care what you say. That's a fucking shot at him. You can't, in this political climate, you can't talk about building walls between nations and not.
But it's awful. The wall is a metaphor. That's what they're
fucking metaphor. The wall is a fucking shot at
for
Trump,
a strong
man.
Immigration policy.
That's a fucking shot, and I loved it. I loved that he did that.
Yeah. So yeah, it was basically T'Challa going in front of the UN saying that Wakanda is not going to be isolationist anymore. They're going to share the technology and all of that stuff with the rest of the world. And I love how how the guy condescendingly asks, well, what the hell does Wakanda have to offer the world? And then it just shows T'Challa, he just smiles and then it cuts off. That was awesome. I love that final shot of him just like, oh, you have no idea what we have. So that was a nice way to end it too. And then I think the scene after that was the one with the Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Which is really nothing seen in a way. It just shows that, yeah, he's been there since they left him there in Civil War. And, you know, I think he's just waking up for the first time, you know, since they left him there. So Shuri, you know, T'Challa's sisters kind of explain to him what happened. And we don't really see that. We just kind of, she sees him wake up. They kind of get together and she's like, oh, you know, she starts explaining, you know, where he's at. And then the scene cuts off. But was that?
The White Wolf.
The White Wolf, exactly. Yes. So, I mean, I didn't know what that meant until I read an article about it. I'm sure when you heard White Wolf, you probably marked out. But
no, actually, I don't think that's the thing. I think they made that up. But I haven't. But I also haven't read modern comics in like 10 years, so maybe I don't know what I'm talking
about. But yes. But I mean, apparently, I mean, from what we understand, I don't know if Chris Evans has re-signed after Infinity War 2 or whatever they're going to call that second movie. But I mean, are we going to see maybe Bucky take up the reins like he does in the comics? Take up the shield, I should say.
I mean, it's a built-in storyline. Like,
right.
If Chris Evans doesn't want to keep doing it, which I mean, I don't blame him. You have to to keep in ridiculous shape for those fucking movies, and it's probably not easy to like live like. I mean, that's one of the reasons. One of the reasons Hugh Jackman was like, I can't do this anymore because it's like you have to be in like ridiculous top physical condition. But I mean, it's a built-in story. You know, why not? I have no problem with them putting in Bucky as the Winter Soldier. That's fine with me. Or as Captain America, I should say. That's fine with me.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, again, just to sum up, Black Panther, go see it. Go see it if you haven't already, or if you've seen it already, go see it again. I think I might see it again with Movie Pass before it goes, because I think I paid for it the first time, so I can still use Movie Pass to see it again. So I might actually do that just to kind of take it all in again, because it really is worth it, folks. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out.
I paid for it the first time only because Movie Pass doesn't work with 3D screenings, and I had to see it in 3D because it's the only time slot left, so I had to pay for it.
Ah, yes. And I don't know if this is true. I think the rule is you could only see a movie once with Movie Pass. You can't do like a repeat screening on a different day. Is that true? I haven't really looked into that.
I don't know. I don't think that's... I never heard that. I know you can't see more than one a day.
A day, yeah. But I don't know.
I never heard about that same movie. That seems odd.
I think I read when we first started catching, I think I read something where it said that you can only see a movie once. like you can't go to like Black Panther Monday and then Black Panther on Tuesday. I'd only let you see it one time. But I don't know if that's true. I'm gonna maybe do a little research and find out. But that's what I had heard when it was first catching fire. But I'll tell everybody next show. I'll look it up and then I'll let everybody know next episode. But
I don't know.
We're gonna wrap up Force Perspective.
Sorry, I haven't tested it yet, so I don't know.
But with that, we're gonna wrap up Force Perspective episode 106. I think it's 106. I keep doubting whether it's 106 or not. Any questions, comments, feedback, send an email to fpmpodcast@gmail.com. You can follow the show on Twitter at FP Movie Podcast. Follow me on Twitter at SportsGuy515. You can follow the show on Facebook. Just look for Force Perspective Movie Podcast. Join our group on Facebook. And Adolfo over there, you can follow him at Adolfo_Acosta. Adolfo, do you have any other plugs of your own?
Yeah, also on Twitter at Essential Films. The Facebook page, The Essential Films, you can look for that too. What else do I got? EssentialFilmspodcast.com. And my YouTube page, youtube.com/Adolfo J. Acosta, where you might be listening to this right now on it.
Right. And again, like I said last episode, we are going to be putting up everything from 101 to 1. Hopefully, I'm going to add 100 to that. From 100 to 106, this episode up on iTunes for everybody to download if you don't want to do the YouTube thing. But we really appreciate the YouTube views you can give us. So if you could make that your preferred form of taking us all in, we'd appreciate that. But do you have any final words before we get out of here, Adolfo?
No, just, remember, only fools build walls.
There you go. Wiser words have never been spoken. So with that, on behalf of Adolfo and Sports Guy 515, thanks a lot for joining us. We will see you next week as we tackle more of these recent releases like A Wrinkle in Time, Thoroughbreds, Death Wish, and probably Hurricane Heights, because I'm kind of a little excited for it now, even though it's going to be a shit movie. But we'll tackle that next week. So until then, we are out of here.